Hello class. Mrs. Berger here. That nasty virus that I have, unfortunately, or had, I should say, unfortunately has turned into a sinus infection and bronchitis. So, first off, if I do a horrible amount of coughing through this video, I apologize. But I'm going to need to take a couple days off here to really recover, let my medicine do its job, and get better so I can come back and feel better for you guys. So I will be gone today. I will also be gone tomorrow. There will be a new post going out tomorrow with actually a new section of notes if we can try to get that down while I'm gone. But I'm going to kind of play it by ear. But for today, luckily, we're not going to do anything new. I'm going to try and make this as quick and easy as possible. We're going to review a little bit of what we did on Friday. If you were gone on Friday and you are here today and you have not watched the video from Friday, you absolutely need to. I don't care if you play it at 1.5 or 2 times faster than necessary, but if you were gone Friday, you missed a very somewhat challenging section. So you really have to make sure that you put the work in, especially since I'm sick today, to try and learn that section. Rely on people in your class. I know that there are people in the class that probably somewhat understood Friday's lesson, so they should be able to help. And if you are one of those people, I hope that while I'm gone, you step up as a leader and help those other students that aren't understanding it better understand it. So first thing we're going to do is open up to section 6, which is what we did on Friday. And I'm just going to do one review problem, because then in just a second, I'm going to get out the homework for today and do a review problem from there as well. So section 6, go ahead and open up your student journals here. I'll give you a second to do that. Okay, so section 6, I'm going to flip the page. And there are some practice problems here. I'm not going to worry about ones right now that have negatives. I'll tell you guys when that leading coefficient is negative, you have to start by factoring the negative out. But I'm not going to worry about that today while I'm absent. We're just going to review what we did on Friday. So this is, again, those of you that were gone on Friday, there was a sheet that went with the notes, like an extra sheet. That's not the note packet. Those are over on the middle shelf, where like the lotion and the extra school supplies and stuff is over by the door. So if you don't have that, this is what it looks like, and this kind of walks you through the process that we did on Friday. So keeping all this in mind, I'm going to use a box. I'm going to use the little X to get my stuff kind of all situated. So I always start, if this is what I'm factoring, first of all, you always want to start with a greatest common factor and see if you can take a greatest common factor out. I cannot. There is not a number that divides evenly from 4, 13, and 3. So there's no option of taking greatest common factor out, okay? The reason I can't just go straight into this, what multiplies to 3 and adds to 13, first of all, there is no option, but second of all, it's because that number in the front is not 1. So this is where, okay, we have a lot of different options for how this could go together. Our answer is still going to end up being in our factored parentheses, but we're not entirely sure what goes in those parentheses anymore. So I usually start with the box, okay? And I know that whatever my factors are, so there's going to be a number here and here, something here and here. I know that these first two terms have to multiply to 4x squared, and I know that the last two terms have to multiply to 3. So that's usually where I start. The complicated part is figuring out what the heck goes in the middle. That's going to give us 13. And so that is where the X helps us a little bit. The X tells us exactly what's going to go in those middle boxes. So again, as a reminder from Friday, okay, the top of your box is the first term times the last term. So we say A and C. This is A, the first term, the middle term is B, and the last term is C. So A times C is 12, and then you can put the X squared, but I usually don't even worry about that. Because I know, you guys, that this first term and first term here both have to have X in them, just kind of based on how factoring works. Okay, the middle term b is what goes in the bottom. So that technically it's 13x. You are now looking for two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 13. And they're all positives. That's nice. Multiplies to 12 and adds to 13. Okay, so if you don't have it, you just go to your factor sheet, look at your options for your factors of 12, which two numbers are going to add up and make 13, and that's going to be 1 and 12. So our middle terms are going to be a 1x and a 12x, and everything's positive, so that just means they're going to also be positive. And that tells us what goes here and here in these diagonal boxes, and it never matters which one goes where. You can put it either way. So I'm going to put the 1x here and the 12x here. Okay, so that's not your answer, but that tells you what these specifically multiply out to. So you can kind of start doing a little bit of a multiplication game. A little, helpful thing to do is do your greatest common factor at least once. It doesn't matter. You can do it on any of the columns or any of the rows. I usually just pick the row that jumps out to me first. So like 3 and 12x, I know that their greatest common factor is 3. So I just go there first. Okay, from here it is all a multiplication game for me. So like if I start here, in this top box, 3 times what would give me, 12x. We do that again. 3 times what gives me 12x? And that would be 4x. 3 times what, I'm going to go over here to the side, would equal 3. 3 times what equals 3? 1. 1 times what gives me 1x? That would be x. Or 1x. You can put 1x there if that helps you. And then just double check your last box. 4x times 1x, does that equal 4x squared? And it does. And these, my friends, are your factors. So 4x plus 1 is one of them. X plus 3 is the other. Doesn't matter which one gets listed first. There's your answer. Okay? And that's the Xbox method. Now, when negatives start to get involved, you just have to know your rules about negative numbers in order to get those negatives put in the right place. Okay. So, Friday's homework was this page, right? 7.6. There were 6 problems where you took a greatest common factor out right from the start, and then you just had like basic factoring, and then you guys had 6 problems that were this whole process of the Xbox method. So if you haven't done Friday's assignment, you need to make sure that you do that today, and you should hopefully have a good chunk of work time when this video is up. Okay, so the back of this is what I'm going to assign you tonight, and this is going to be every type of factoring that we've done so far. So I'm going to do one of each problem with you so that hopefully you can kind of finish out each, what I would call, section on its own. So the first type of factoring we ever did, and this doesn't even have any solving on it, so that's nice. Oh, before I forget too, also, we turned in on Friday 2 sheets. And I did grade those. I don't think I've entered them yet. I will try to enter them as I stay home sick tomorrow. But they are graded and they're ready to go in the box to be handed back. And you guys can wait for me to come back, or if a student wants to go up to the front and go get them out of the box. It's not labeled like your class period box, but it's the same color. So it's the boxes that are on the bottom. It matches the color of your class period box. If somebody in the class wants to go pass those back, you are more than welcome to. Otherwise, you can totally wait for me to come back. But we did turn those in if you were gone on Friday. So if you want to make sure that you get those turned in today for your points, do that. Okay, greatest common factor. We have 5x squared and 45x. So the greatest common factor for 5 and 45, the greatest common factor for x squared and x. Greatest common factor of 5 and 45 would be 5. The greatest common factor for x squared and just x to the first is always the lower exponent. So that's just going to be x to the first, or a single x. And then you are undistributing that. So if you divide away that 5x from both of those terms, The first one, 5 divided by 5 is 1, or just cancels. X squared divided by x is x. The back term, 45x divided by 5x, the x's cancel. 45 divided by 5 is 9. There's your final answer. I do know some of us struggled with something like 3. Just remember, when you have y cubed and y squared, you can take a whole y squared out, not just a singular y. You can always take the lower exponent. Okay? Okay. So our next set of problems is, I don't really use the x method here. These are all, do you notice how all the leading coefficients are 1? That's a nice thing, because then it's just what two numbers multiply to 30 and add to 11. Okay, I will pick one that has a negative though, because I know sometimes we struggle with that. So like I'm going to go down to number 8, I think. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 48 and add to 2. If that's a negative 48 that they're multiplying to, then for sure one of my numbers has to be positive, one has to be negative. So I go to my factors of 48 here. I need to make 2. Okay, so 6 and 8 I think is going to be my go-to here. So then you have to decide which one's positive, which one's negative. Excuse me, if they're adding to positive 2, that means 8 is positive, 6 is negative. Okay. That's how you do 4 through 9. 10, 11, and 12. The leading coefficient isn't 1, but actually you can take a greatest common factor out of all of them. So that means that for all 3 of these, that first number is actually something you can divide away from the whole problem. So if I do the first one here, you can actually divide out a 4 right from the start and just divide everything by 4, because all 3 of those terms are divisible by 4. You're left with x squared. 16x divided by 4 is minus 4x. 20 divided by 4 is minus 5. So then that makes the leading coefficient 1, which makes this a pretty simple problem. So we are just filling in. You got to keep that 4 in front, remember. But we are just filling in the 2 numbers that multiply to negative 5 and add to negative 4. Okay, well, 5 is prime, so that's nice. One has to be positive, one has to be negative, because they're multiplying to a negative 5. They have to add to negative 4. So that means the 5 will be negative and the 1 will be positive. That's how you do all 3 of these. Start with your GCF. Start by factoring the 5 out. Start by factoring the 3 out. Then it's normal. Okay, and then you have your Xbox method. Sorry, the glare from my kitchen windows coming in now. Okay, so I'll do one more of these with you, and then you guys can do 14 and 15 on your own. All right, I do not know what my factors are, but I know that the first box, if I did box method, has to be 5x squared, and the last one has to be negative 4. So to help me figure out my 2 diagonal middle boxes here, a times c goes on top, so 5x squared times negative 4, make sure that's a negative, is going to be negative 20x squared. My middle term b, 19x, goes in the bottom. I need 2 terms that multiply to negative 20 and add to 19. Multiply to negative 20 and add to 19. Okay, factors of 20. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. 20 and 1 is going to be my option here, right? One has to be positive, one has to be negative, since they're multiplying to a negative 20. But they're adding to a positive 19. So it's positive 20x and negative 1x. It doesn't matter which one you put where. So that part's kind of the same thing as before, right? You just have to remember to multiply the first and the last term together, and then it's kind of the same as before. Okay, so we have to find all of these spots that multiply to the inside stuff. I always start with a greatest common factor. So I'm looking at the top, 5x squared and 20x. I know I can take a 5x out of both of those. 5x times what? Sorry, my hand's in the way. 5x times what gives me 5x squared? That would be 1x. 5x times what gives me 20x? That would be 4. 4 times what gives me negative 4? That would be negative 1. And just to double check that, negative 1x. So my factors are x plus 4 and 5x minus 1. Awesome. I don't have an answer key up at the front of the room. I just realized that, and I sincerely apologize. We will hopefully go through this stuff when I get back on Wednesday. Tuesday, I'm absent regardless whether I'm sick or whether I'm supposed to be at a conference that day. So tomorrow I will have another video with a new section for you that I'll try to make. But this needs to be done before you guys leave today. Okay, so we have to be super duper focused. I know I'm not there. I know sometimes it's hard to learn off a video, but you guys need to work with each other. You need to rely on each other. And my leaders in the room that get this stuff, I really need you to step up for me today, okay? All right, you guys. Good luck on that assignment, and I will be back again tomorrow with another video. Bye.